Okay, so in the last chapter on the fiscal policy, we already learned there are two tools that can be used by government in order to monitor the aggregate demand in short run, right? Do you still can recall what are the two tools of fiscal policy that can be used by government? Under the fiscal policy, there are two tools can be used by government to monitor the aggregate demand in short run. Can you recall what are the two tools? Anybody? Fiscal policy.
Taxes.
Correct. Yes. Good. Very good. Yeah. Okay. So one of the tools is through taxes, right? The government can either increase or reduce the personal tax or the company tax in an economy, so that this can influence the C, I, G, and X in an economy that will influence the AD, right? Okay. Besides tax, any other tool that can be used by government in the fiscal policy?
Spending.
Correct. Yeah. Good. Very good. It's true. Government spending as well. Yeah. So government spending is referred to the G. Is referred to the G. So if the government spend more, then this will increase the AD. Right. If the government spend less, this will reduce the AD. Okay. So in short, in last chapter under the fiscal policy, we already learned there are two tools that can be used by government to monitor the aggregate demand in an economy. Okay. So today we are going to proceed to the next chapter. Again, this is the last chapter for this unit, which is monetary policy. Monetary policy is also one of the policies that can be used by government to control the aggregate demand in short run as well. Okay, can be used to control the aggregate demand in short run. How then? Okay, what other tools can be used? Actually, monetary policy actually is the policy used by government to adjust the money supply through central bank. Okay, central bank is a bank negara. Yeah? So central bank has the right to control the money supply in an economy. Okay, so money supply actually is referred to the quantity of money available in the economy. Okay, so the decision on how much money has to be available in the market is depends on central bank. Okay, central bank will make the decision. And how about money demand then? Money demand actually is referred to the amount of wealth, amount of money that ought to be on or held by the stakeholders, or we call as the different sectors in an economy, which consists of the household, firms, government, and also the international trade. Okay. So what is the reason? What is the reason monetary policy is so important? Why? Actually, monetary policy can be used to solve the three major macroeconomics issues. Okay, so monetary policy is one of the policy that can be used by government to address or to solve the three major macroeconomics issue. So can you recall what are the major three macroeconomics issues or macroeconomics problems that you already learned? Can you recall? Anybody? What are the three major macroeconomics issues that have to be solved?
Unemployment.
Correct. So one is unemployment. That is one of the major macroeconomics issue that has to be addressed by the government in a nation or an economy. Okay. Anything else besides unemployment issue?
Inflation.
Inflation as well, right? Because if the inflation is too high, that means the prices for most of the products will be very high, and this will affect the standard of living for the nation in an economy, which is not good. So inflation is also another issue that have to be solved by government as well. Okay. Any other issue again? Another one. Another macroeconomics issue is. Can you recall? Any other major macroeconomics issue that have to be addressed by government? Anybody? Besides unemployment and inflation, what else?
Business cycle.
Yeah, quite near already. Business cycle. Okay. How does business cycle is going to affect the economy then? Yeah, business cycle. That means the GDP. Okay, the GDP of the country will fluctuate from time to time. The GDP of a country is not always consistent throughout the time period. But GDP of the country will fluctuate from time to time, which is also not good for a nation. Okay, so these are the three major issues that have to be solved by the government. Okay, so in the last chapter, we already learned fiscal policy is one of the policy that government can use. Okay, so today we're going to learn another policy, which is monetary policy. That can be used to solve the problem as well. But government have to go through the central bank, to address the money supply in an economy. Okay, so at first we have to understand first, how does the central bank operate? What is central bank? So actually, central bank is owned by government. Okay, so one country has only one central bank. One nation has only one central bank. All right, which is owned by government. So what is the reason why each country must have a central bank? What is the reason? Okay, there are two purposes or two reasons why a country should have a central bank. So central bank actually is used, okay, to monitor the operation activity of commercial banking system. Okay, commercial banking would be like RHB Bank, Maybank, public bank. These are the commercial bank. Okay, so who are going to monitor all the activities of these commercial banks? Central bank is going to monitor the activities of the commercial banks in a country. All right. The second objective for central bank is also to control the quantity of money supply in an economy as well. So these are the two major roles of central bank. So, okay, how to control the quantity of supply? Okay, there are three tools that can be used by central bank in order to control the money supply in an economy. So we are going to look at one by one later on in more detail. So generally, the three tools are the reserve requirements ratio, okay, followed by discount rate and open market operations. These are the three tools. Okay, I know that these three tools are new for you. We are going to look at one by one later on. Okay. Then, okay, so okay, before we go for the three tools, we also have to understand first how does the commercial banks operate as well. Commercial banks are referred to the private banks, private-owned banks, whereby these banks actually have the objective to earn profit, okay, by provide a lot of financial services, such as provide housing loan, car loan, business loan to the businesses or individuals, individual household, and also the businesses as well. So in return, the commercial bank are going to receive interest from the borrowers, okay, of mortgages. So you may ask then, how do the commercial bank get money from? Actually, the commercial bank, they'll get sources of money from the individual and also the business that save money in the commercial bank, right? Like deposit account. If individual and also the business, they can open deposit account or fixed account in the commercial bank. So in return, those individual household and also the private firm can earn interest from the bank, from the commercial bank, if they invest or save money in the commercial bank. This is how commercial bank operate. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. Okay, so let us check. How does the central bank use the three tools to control the money supply in the economy? So the first tool is called as the reserve ratio. Okay, reserve ratio actually is the minimum amount of money that has to be deposited by each commercial bank in a central bank. Okay, so and this reserve actually is in cash. So it's amount of cash that have to be deposited in the central bank by each individual commercial bank. Okay, so another word for reserve ratio is also called as the required reserve ratio. So what is the reason why all the commercial bank need to keep a certain amount of money in the central bank as reserve? Why? What is the reason? Actually, is because it's to protect the depositor of the commercial banks. Okay, depositor means those people who save money or who have the deposit in the commercial bank. Okay, and so this reserve can be used for emergency purpose, because sometimes suddenly the depositors of commercial bank may suddenly want to withdraw huge amount of money at once, a huge amount of money. Then if that's the case, the commercial bank can use the reserve fund from the central bank in order to meet the uncertain mass depositor withdrawals. Okay, so this is one of the reason. This is the main reason why reserve ratio is required for each commercial bank. Okay. Then this can avoid the bank run. Bank run means the bank cannot afford to pay the amount of money required by the depositor. Okay. So how does the reserve ratio going to influence the money supply? Is like that. So assume that if the central bank, the government increase the reserve ratio. Okay, if increase the reserve ratio, what is the implication then? So that means the commercial bank need to increase the amount of reserve cash in the central bank. Okay, had to reserve more money in the central bank. Then what is the consequence? This is going to reduce the ability of commercial bank to lend money. So that means the money supply will reduce. Okay, so this will reduce the money supply. So I put here reduce money supply. Money supply will reduce in the market now, in the economy, because additional reserve have to be kept in the central bank. Okay, so this will reduce the money supply in an economy. Okay, so on the other hand, how about if the central bank decide to reduce the reserve ratio that need to be kept by the commercial bank? Okay, if the reserve ratio is reduced, so that means the commercial bank will have more money to lend out to the public. Okay, more money to be lent out. So that means this will increase the money supply. Okay, money supply will increase if the reserve ratio is lowering. Okay. So you might find that actually the relationship between the reserve ratio and money supply has negative relationship, right? There is a negative relationship between the reserve ratio level and the money supply level. There is a negative relationship. Okay, so far okay for the first two. Before I move on to the second two, any question so far? So the cash reserve ratio had to be kept in the commercial in the central bank. The commercial bank cannot withdraw the money from there. Had to be kept in the central bank. So far okay. All right, then I'll move on to the second tool. Okay, the second tool that can be used by the central bank to control the money supply is called as the discount rate. Okay, sometimes it's also called as a bank rate. Actually, this is the interest rate. Okay, it's also one of the interest rate charged by the central bank to the commercial bank when the commercial bank borrow money from central bank. So sometimes commercial bank may borrow money from central bank, right? Sometimes, all right. So in return, commercial bank has to pay interest rate to the central bank, and the name of the interest rate is called as discount rate or bank rate. So this interest rate is only between commercial bank and central bank, between these two banks only. It's not related to personal loan or the private firm loan. It's only between the loan between central bank and commercial bank. Okay. So what happens if the discount rate is low? If the interest rate is low, yeah, charged by central bank is low. So what is the meaning? That means the cost of borrowing is cheaper now, right? If the interest rate to borrow money from central bank is low, so that means that cost of borrowing is cheaper now. Okay, cost of borrowing is cheaper. So what is going to happen? Then this is going to encourage the commercial bank to borrow money from the central bank. Okay, this will encourage the commercial bank to borrow money from central bank, right? So what is going to happen then? What is the next consequence? So that means that this is going to increase the money supply in an economy, because the commercial bank can easily get money from central bank. So this will increase the money supply in the market or in the economy. So on the other hand, what happens if the discount rate now is higher? If discount rate is higher, that means the cost of borrowing is higher. Cost of borrowing is higher now. So as a result, this will discourage the commercial bank to borrow money from central bank. As a result, this will reduce the money supply in an economy. Okay, so you may find that there is also a negative relationship between discount rate and also the money supply. There is a negative relationship between discount rate and money supply. So if the government want to increase the money supply, then central bank has to reduce the discount rate. In order to increase the money supply, central bank has to reduce the discount rate. Okay, so that means these two have the negative relationship. Okay, any questions so far on this discount rate or bank rate? So far so good. Any question? Okay, I stop for a while before I move on to the third two. So far so good. Okay, then I move on to the third two. The third tool is called as the open market operations. So this is also one of the tools that can be used by central bank to control money supply in an economy. How then? Okay, actually this is a channel. It's a channel for the central bank to buy and sell government bonds or security to the commercial bank. Okay, so actually this is a channel for having the transaction of government bonds and securities between central bank and commercial bank. Okay, so this depends on the situation of the economy. So the government, the central bank can try to buy the government bonds from a commercial bank, okay, or another way around as well. So what is the effect then? What is the effect if the central bank buy government bond from the buy back the government bond from a commercial bank then? So that means that the central bank has to pay the bond by increasing the cash reserve of the commercial bank. So that means that there will be more money now, more money supply to the commercial bank available. In the commercial bank, there will be more money now in terms of the money supply. Okay, so as a result, this will increase the money supply available for commercial bank that can be used to lend to household and firms. Okay. So on the other hand, also, if what happens if the central bank sell the government bonds to the commercial bank? Okay, if selling, that means the commercial bank had to pay the price of the government bond to central bank. Okay, and this will reduce the cash reserve of the commercial bank, and this will reduce the money supply available in the economy. Okay, I stop for a while. So these are the three tools that can be used by central bank to control the money supply. Okay, so now the next question is how to control these three tools in order to control the money supply. In what situation the strategy had to be used by central bank in order to control the money supply by using these three tools then? Okay, this depends on the economy situation. Okay, this depends on the economy situation. If the economy is having a very high unemployment rate, okay, and recession time, many people no job, business also not good. If there is a case, the central bank had to practice the expansionary monetary policy. Okay, so expansionary monetary policy should be practiced if the economic condition is not good. So how to apply this expansionary monetary policy? Okay, so the government can try to buy the government bonds. Okay, the central bank actually it can buy the government bonds from the commercial bank. Okay, buy back the government bond from the commercial bank. At the same time, also try to reduce the reserve ratio required by the commercial bank. Okay, and also reduce the discount rate that need to be paid by the commercial bank to central bank. Okay, so these three tools should be used at the same time in order to improve the situation of unemployment or recession time. Okay, and these three tools are more suitable to be used when the economy is not good. Okay, and the policy is called as the expansionary monetary policy. Okay, so on the other hand, what happens if a country is having very high inflation? That means prices generally are very high in the economy. Prices for most of the products are generally very high in the economy. Then what should the government do? Then the government can try to use the contractionary monetary policy, okay, whereby the central bank can try to reduce the money supply by selling the government bonds to the commercial banks. Okay, sell out the government bonds to the commercial bank so that this can reduce the money supply in the market. Okay, another tool is to increase the reserve ratio that have to be kept by the commercial bank. Next is to increase also the discount rate that have to be paid by the commercial bank, so that this can discourage the commercial bank to borrow money from the central bank. Okay, so let's check what is the effect for each type of monetary policy.
So,
okay, so we start from
can you repeat for contractionary monetary policies?
Okay, all right. So contractionary monetary policy is more suitable to be used. Suitable to be used when an economy has high inflation rate. Okay, high inflation rate, that means the average price level of the products in an economy is relatively high, okay, and it's continuously increase the price, and then this is called as inflation, right? So how to address the inflation rate in the economy then? Okay, one of the policy that can be used by government is through the monetary policy, and this is called as contractionary monetary policy. So how does this contractionary monetary policy work then? Okay, then the central bank really have to use these three tools in order to reduce the inflation rate in the economy. How? Okay, that is selling the government bonds to the commercial bank. Second is to increase the reserve ratio that have to be kept by commercial bank. And third is to increase the discount rate by that have to be charged to the commercial bank as well. Okay, so these are the three tools that have to be used at the same time in order to reduce the inflation rate. So let us try to check one by one later on how does each monetary policy is going to influence the money supply and also going to influence the aggregate demand, and lastly to address the macroeconomic issue. All right, so let us try to check the expansionary monetary policy first. Okay, expansionary monetary policy is also called as easy money policy. Same meaning. Okay, easy money policy means the expansionary monetary policy. So this policy is most suitable to be used when the government would like to reduce the unemployment rate and also to solve the recession issue. And then expansionary monetary policy is more suitable to be used. So as we know, so in order to implement this policy, the central bank has to increase the money supply by using three tools. The three tools that have to be used by government in order by the central bank in order to increase the money supply. Okay, so in order to increase the money supply, the central bank has to buy back the government bonds from the commercial bank, lower down the reserve ratio, and also lower down the discount rate. So once these three tools implement and increase the money supply, then the commercial bank will have lesser interest rate. Okay, lesser interest rate that need to be paid. Will reduce the interest rate that will be offered to the public as well. Okay, commercial bank will reduce the interest rate to the loan charge to the private firm and also the household. If that is the case, that means this will reduce the borrowing cost of the household and private firm in an economy. Okay, so if that's the case, this will encourage the individual household and private firm to borrow money from the commercial bank. Then this will increase the household spending and also increase the private firm investment. So the private firm can use the money, the loan that received from the commercial bank to extend the business or to open new business. So this will increase the I value. Okay. So once the G and I increasing, this will increase the aggregate demand. Right. So once the aggregate demand increasing, the real GDP of the country will increase. Then this can reduce the recession issue and address the unemployment. So let us see the diagram. Okay, so assume that now the original aggregate demand, aggregate supply is this line. Aggregate demand is 81. Okay, this line 81. Aggregate supply in the short run is this red line, upward sloping. And the macroeconomic equilibrium point is at point A now. Okay, with the GDP with the price level of 96, and then the GDP value level is at $13.8. Okay, so now assuming that the central bank is practicing the expansionary monetary policy, so what is going to happen? This is going to shift the aggregate demand curve to the right hand side because more money now in the economy, more money now. So this will encourage the spending by household and also by the private firm. So once the I and C increasing, you may find that the AD will shift to the right hand side. So assume that the AD will shift to AD2 now. Okay, so as a result, the new economic equilibrium point will be at point B now. So at this point B, you may find that the price level is at $100, and the real GDP now already increased to 14 trillion dollar. Okay, so this is how the expansionary monetary policy work. All right. So on the other hand, okay, just now the student asked, so what happens if the central bank is practicing contractionary monetary policy then? Okay, contractionary monetary policy is also called as the tight money policy. So this policy actually is used to control the inflation. So how does this policy work? Okay, so at first is the central bank need to reduce the money supply by doing three things. Okay, need to do three things in order to reduce the money supply. So the government need to direct the central bank to sell the government loan. So the central bank have to sell. So I put here, okay, sells government loan, government bonds. Second is to have a high reserve ratio, increase the reserve ratio. Third is to increase the discount rate. these three things. So by doing these three tools, then this will reduce the money supply in an economy. So once money supply reducing, that means commercial bank will have more money to be lent out to the public. Okay. So what does the commercial bank will do? Commercial bank will increase the interest rate. Okay. Increase the interest rate in the economy. So once the commercial bank increase the interest rate, that means the borrowing cost is relatively more expensive now. It's more expensive now to borrow money from commercial bank. So what is going to happen? This will discourage the private firm and also the household to borrow money from commercial bank. As a result, the C and I will reduce because less money available in the economy. So this will reduce the amount of consumption by household and also the firm investment will reduce. So once C and I reduce, this will reduce the aggregate demand. Once aggregate demand reducing, this will reduce the real GDP. Okay, so let us see how does this work. Okay, so assume that now the original aggregate demand is 81. Okay, this line, and then the aggregate supply is the red line, the outward sloping line. This is the short run aggregate supply, and then the original macroeconomics equilibrium point is at point A. So at point A, the price level generally is at the level of $102, and the real GDP is at $14.2 trillion. Okay, so assuming that now the central bank is having the contractionary monetary policy, that means the money supply now is lower. This will increase the cost of borrowing. So once the cost of borrowing is increasing, that means this will discourage the C and I. And if this happens, this will reduce the aggregate demand in the economy. Then the aggregate demand will shift to the left-hand side to AD2. Okay, from AD1 to AD2, which is this line now. And once the AD2 shift to this point, this line, all right, you may find that the new macroeconomic equilibrium point is at point B now, which is this point. So at the new macroeconomic equilibrium point, the equilibrium price level is $100, and the equilibrium real GDP value now is $14.0 trillion. So you may find that both the price level and real GDP are reduced. This is how the government address the inflation issue in an economy. Okay. So any questions so far on this? On monetary policy? So in short today, okay, what we have learned. So we already learned, okay, actually the government can try to use the monetary policy in order to adjust the money supply in an economy. This will affect the interest rate offered by the commercial bank to private sector. Okay, so from this can help to address the issue of macroeconomic problems, such as inflation and unemployment. So how does the central bank control the money supply then? How? There are three tools that can be used through controlling the reserve ratio, discount rate, and also the open market operations through selling and buying the government bonds. All right. So generally, there are two monetary policy that can be considered by the central bank. There are two monetary policy that can be considered by the central bank, and this depends on the economic condition. This depends on the condition in an economy. Okay, so if the economy is having very high inflation rate, okay, and the economic condition seems to be is very good, okay, it's like growing now, very good. People have money to buy goods and services. Okay, if that's the case, then the government should try to control the aggregate demand in the economy, so that the inflation rate will not be too high. Okay, we cannot reduce to 0 inflation rate, but we can try to monitor the inflation rate, try to reduce to about 3 to 4%. Okay, so that the average price level is not too high. Yeah? So one of the tools that can be used is through the monetary policy. Okay, so how? That is, can try to sell government bonds and also increase the reserve ratio and increase the discount rate. So all these three tools are called as the contractionary monetary policy. Okay, so on the other hand, how about if the economy is having recession and many people are jobless, no job opportunities? Then what is the best strategy that should be used by government in order to monitor the recession problem? Okay, so the government can try to consider to apply the expansionary monetary policy through the central bank. Yeah? So whereby the central bank can try to buy back the government bonds from the commercial bank and also lower down the reserve ratio and the discount rate that need to be paid by the commercial bank. Okay, so by implementing these three tools, then this can help to reduce the C and I. Okay, and once the C and I reducing this, will reduce the AD value, right? So, and this will influence the GDP in the economy. Okay, so any questions so far on this chapter, monetary policy? Okay, yeah. So can differentiate between the fiscal policy and monetary policy? So fiscal policy is a tool used by government to monitor the aggregate demand, but it's using the tax and government spending. But for monetary policy, is using the reserve ratio, discount rate, and the government bonds to control the money supply in the economy that will influence the aggregate demand in an economy. Okay. Okay, any questions so far on this? So it's a short chapter, huh? Okay, so tomorrow we are going to have a tutorial. We are going to discuss the tutorial question. For this chapter, not many questions included in the tutorial. Only about 12 questions only. For summative question, only 12. And then for formative, also a few questions that you need to do. So we can discuss the tutorial question by tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, Chair.
Yes, Alvin. Yes. Any questions so far?
No question.
Okay. So this is the last chapter, for this unit. Okay, this is the last chapter. The reason why we cover this chapter, why we don't want to combine with the fiscal policy is so that we don't want to confuse you. We want to ensure that you are clear with the fiscal policy first. Okay, in order to prepare you for your online quiz 3. So monetary policy only covered by today. Okay, and coming Monday, we are going to have a common lecture, whereby in the lecture on Monday we are going to discuss on the final assessment for this unit. Final assessment for this unit. Okay, so in terms of the coverage of the assessment, what the chapters will cover, how many questions we are going to discuss during our coming Monday lecture, which is going to start at 4 o'clock. So announcement already made available. You can go to check. It's under the announcement. Okay, let me share. Okay, so you can get some detail about the briefing for final assessment in the announcement section. Okay, you can click on this. So the name of the final assessment for this unit is called as online test. Okay, is the duration of the test is only 1 hour. Okay? It's online. Consists of 40 multiple choice questions. No essay, no structural question, all are multiple choice questions. Okay, and according to the timetable, the final assessment timetable, the assessment date for economics is on the 9th of December, 1 o'clock. Have you received the timetable? Your final assessment timetable, have you received, everybody? Have all of you received the final assessment timetable from the student central? Have you? Who is there? Have you all received the final assessment timetable? Not yet, huh? Not yet, huh? Okay. For economics, it's on the 9th of December, already confirmed, huh? Let me check what time is that. Let me share the document, huh? Okay, I think I had to leave the session for a while. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint slide? Okay, so this is the date of our economics online test schedule. It's on the 9th of December. Duration of the final assessment is 60 minutes or 1 hour for this unit, only 1 hour. And then the starting time is at 1 o'clock. Okay, so if you start at 1, that means you have to finish at 2 o'clock. But I'll give extra 30 minutes for those who start late. Let's say if you start at 1:15, then at least you still can finish by 2:15 in order to enjoy the full 60 minutes of the assessment time. Okay. So try to start early, Try to start early in order to avoid any technical issue. Okay. So for the details for the assessment, we are going to discuss by this coming Monday. Okay. But before coming to the briefing discussion, you can go through the PowerPoint slide if you want. So any questions so far? For the assignment, I already received your assignment. Okay, I'll do marking. I have to start to do marking already. Okay, for the final assessment, I'm going to prepare we call it as the trial test for you so that you know the format of the question. I'm going to make the trial test available so that you can practice to do those questions that can be used as a revision exercise and also to let you be familiar with the format of the final assessment. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
is it all MCQ?
Yes, all MCQ.
So how many questions are there?
40.
Okay,
40 questions. 40. 40 multiple choice questions. So each question has 4 options for you to choose, just like the ordinary online quiz 1, 2, 3. Okay, but this time you'll have more questions. 40 questions within 1 hour you need to complete. Can go back to here again. Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay. If not, then I'll see you tomorrow to discuss the tutorial question tomorrow. Tomorrow, because actually not many tutorial question will be covered, so we should be able to finish by 1 hour. Okay. If not, then we just call a day. And thank you for your participation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, see you. Okay, bye-bye. I'll stop doing
Thank you,
recording.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Welcome. Okay, see you.